She was born into extreme poverty. She survived abuse, rejection, and failure, and yet she became one of the most influential women in human history. This is not luck. This is the unstoppable rise of Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey's life is living proof that your beginnings do not decide your destiny. Raised in poverty, surrounded by pain and trauma, she refused to let her past define her future. Through courage, self-belief, and purpose, Oprah turned suffering into strength and built a legacy that continues to inspire millions across the world. The story doesn't begin with a vision board. It begins in the stark, unvarnished reality of rural Mississippi, 1954. Kosciuszko, a name that sounds like a whisper against the wind. Oprah Winfrey was born to a teenage mother into a world defined by its lack. This wasn't picturesque poverty, it was the grinding material scarcity where potato sacks were sewn into dresses. There was no inheritance here, no family name to open doors, no safety net woven from privilege. The foundational truth of her existence was survival. Yet within that truth lies the first, most critical lesson. You are not your circumstances. You are the consciousness that observes them. We often romanticize starting from the bottom, but we must understand the profound loneliness of that space. There is no blueprint, no mentor waiting in the wings, no example in your immediate universe of what a different life could look like. Your entire known world is the boundary of your struggle. For a young Oprah, that world was one of profound material nothingness. But nothing is a powerful teacher. When you were born with nothing, you are not burdened by expectation. There is no legacy to uphold, no predetermined path to follow. You are free, in the most terrifying and potent way, to invent yourself. That empty space becomes the blank page. The quiet of that rural landscape wasn't just an absence of noise. It was the container for an inner voice that had yet to find its words. The strength wasn't in the potato sack dress, it was in the spirit that wore it. A spirit that had not yet been told what it could not be, because the world around it hadn't even conceived of the possibilities. This beginning is the ultimate refutation of the idea that you need something to start. You need someone to see. And the first person who has to see you is yourself. Before any audience, any camera, any fortune, there was a young girl in Mississippi who possessed the only capital that ever truly matters, an unbroken sense of self, waiting for its moment to speak. Trauma is not a plot point. It is an annihilation of the known world. The abuse Oprah endured as a child wasn't just a hardship, it was a systematic assault on safety, trust, and the very integrity of a young self. It is a violence that seeks to silence, to shame, to convince the soul that it is unworthy of like, that its voice is a burden, that its body is not its own. Many are broken by this. The psyche, in a desperate bid for survival, can fracture, retreat, or build fortresses so high that love cannot scale them. This is the expected path. Oprah's choice, and it is a choice, repeated daily, was the path of radical integration. Healing is not the absence of pain, it is the courageous decision to metabolize that pain into wisdom. It is the arduous work of looking directly at the wound and saying, "This happened to me, but it is not me." This process requires a terrifying vulnerability. It means refusing to let the trauma define your borders while simultaneously acknowledging its seismic role in shaping your landscape. For Oprah, this meant giving voice to the unspeakable, first in the privacy of her own heart, then in the therapeutic space, and later, with breathtaking bravery, in public. She did not hide her history, she alchemized it. She understood that the very experiences designed to hollow her out had in fact created a reservoir of profound empathy. When you have faced the darkest corners of human behavior and chosen not to reside there, you develop a compass for truth that cannot be fooled. You can look into the eyes of someone sharing their own shame and say, without words, "I see you. I am not afraid of your darkness. I have been there." This transforms pain from a silencing wall into a connecting bridge. Her power as an interviewer, her ability to create a space where guests wept and confessed, stemmed directly from this journey. She had done the work. She had stared down the monsters in her own memory and refused to let them hold the pen to her story. In doing so, she gave millions permission to pick up their own pens and begin writing past their pain. In a world of material lack, the mind becomes the most valuable territory to claim. For Oprah, education was not merely a series of classes, it was an act of liberation, a deliberate and conscious excavation of self. Reading was not a pastime, it was a passport. Each book was a ticket out of the confines of her immediate reality. Words on a page became a mirror, showing her a reflection she had not yet seen, a reflection of capability, of intellect, of a mind that could engage with worlds far beyond the Mississippi fields. This was strategic. This was her plan. While her circumstances were temporary, the knowledge she poured into herself was permanent capital. At Tennessee State University, studying communication, she was building the tools for her future empire, syllable by syllable. Education gave her the language to articulate her own experience. It provided a framework to understand the larger forces, social, historical, psychological, that had shaped her world. This is the critical shift, from feeling like a victim of circumstance to understanding the architecture of those circumstances. Knowledge granted her clarity. It replaced the fog of limitation with the sharp lines of possibility. It gave her vision, not a vague hope, but a specific, internally constructed picture of what she could become. Her confidence, then, did not spring from arrogance or empty affirmation. It was a hard-earned confidence, forged in the mastery of information and the refinement of thought. She was not just feeling her way forward, she was thinking her way forward. This foundation of learning made her agile. It allowed her to transition from local radio to television, to absorb the mechanics of media, and eventually to command it. Her escape was not a running away, it was a running toward the empowered self that education had revealed to her. She understood early what many learned too late, that the most secure prison is an uneducated mind, and the most powerful freedom is the ability to think, analyze, and articulate your own reality. Early in her broadcast career, Oprah Winfrey was given a brutal piece of professional feedback. She was too emotional. She was too black. She was too much. The industry prototype for a female news anchor was cool, detached, cerebral, and often looked a certain way. Oprah, with her palpable empathy, her tendency to feel the stories she reported, and her authentic conversational style, was a deviation from the standard. This is the crossroads every authentic person faces, the pressure to conform to the existing template for success. The conventional wisdom is to shrink, to edit, to sand down the rough edges of your personality to fit the pre-cut mold. Many do this and achieve a middling, forgettable success. Oprah's revolutionary decision was to double down on her perceived flaws. She leaned into the empathy. She harnessed the too much feeling. She realized that what the industry saw as a liability, her emotional connection to the material, was in fact her only real asset. It was the very thing that made her different. When she co-hosted People Are Talking in Baltimore, and later when she took over AM Chicago, she didn't try to be a dispassionate broadcaster. She was a curious, compassionate conversation host. She would cry with guests. She would get angry at injustice. She would laugh with unabashed joy. She turned the interview from a Q&A into a shared human experience. This authenticity didn't just resonate, it created a shockwave of recognition. Viewers had never seen someone be so fully human on television. They weren't watching a performer, they felt they were connecting with a real person. In a medium built on artifice, she offered truth. That truth became trust, and trust on a mass scale is the most powerful brand currency in the world. Her superpower was the courageous refusal to wear a professional mask. She proved that authenticity is not about being liked, it's about being believed. and when people believe you, they will follow you anywhere. The narrative of seamless ascent is a lie. Oprah's path was littered with professional rejections, lost jobs, and stinging criticism. She was demoted from a news anchor position because her emotional involvement was deemed unprofessional. Early shows faced cancellation threats. For every step forward, there seemed to be a gust of wind trying to blow her back. The key to her trajectory was her cognitive reframe of failure itself. She did not see it as a verdict on her worth, but as critical data. In her mind, failure was not the opposite of success. It was a vital component of it. It was directional. A closed door wasn't a sign to stop walking, it was a sign to find the correct door. Each setback forced a recalibration, a sharper question. What is this teaching me? What is this revealing about the system, about myself, about what truly works? Being removed from the traditional news anchor track wasn't a defeat, it was a liberation that pushed her toward the talk show format, the space where her true gifts could flourish. Criticism wasn't a reason to hide, it was information to be processed, some to be discarded, some to be absorbed for growth. This mindset transforms the journey from a fragile climb up a ladder, where one slip means a long fall, into a resilient navigation across a landscape. In a landscape, a blocked path means you simply survey the terrain again and plot a new route. You are not falling, you are exploring. This philosophy inoculated her against the paralysis of perfectionism and the fear of risk. If failure is merely feedback, then you are free to try, to experiment, to stretch the boundaries of your show and your business. It allowed her to launch a network, OWN, that initially struggled deeply. The headlines declared it a flop. But instead of seeing a catastrophe, she and her team saw a poorly calibrated engine. They went back to the data of failure, retooled the programming, refined the vision, and steered it to success. Her career is a masterclass in seeing every no and every loss not as a period ending a sentence, but as a comma, a pause that forces you to take a breath, learn, and then continue writing your story with greater clarity. In a media landscape often driven by sensationalism and shock value, Oprah made a radical, counterintuitive bet that meaning was more powerful than mere fame, and that connection was more valuable than attention. She didn't chase ratings for ratings' sake, she chased resonance. This was a strategic and moral choice. From the beginning of the Oprah Winfrey Show, she shifted the focus from tabloid topics to topics of human transformation, overcoming adversity, spiritual exploration, taking responsibility for one's life, literacy, education. She used her platform not just to entertain, but to elevate. This commitment to purpose created a different kind of relationship with her audience. It was not the fragile, fickle bond of celebrity fascination, it was the deep, enduring bond of trust. When you speak to someone's core, their struggles, their hopes, their secret desire to be better, you move beyond being a TV host. You become a companion on their journey. This trust is an unbreakable contract. It meant that when she recommended a book, it became a bestseller. When she endorsed an idea, it entered the cultural bloodstream. When she launched an initiative, millions participated. This trust-built empire is far more stable than one built on fleeting popularity. Popularity asks, do they like me? Purpose asks, does this matter? By consistently choosing the latter, she attracted a community, not just a crowd. Her audience felt seen and respected, not just marketed to. This foundation of purpose allowed her to expand her empire authentically into film production, publishing, a magazine, a network. Every extension was not a mere brand licensing deal, it was another channel for the same core mission, to enlighten, empower, and connect. She proved that the most sustainable, powerful business model is one built on serving a human need for meaning. In doing so, she didn't just gain viewers, she gained advocates. She didn't just build a show, she built a legacy of impact that outlasts any Nielsen rating. A voice is just sound waves until it is infused with intention and truth. Oprah mastered the alchemy of transforming spoken word into tangible change. She understood that her voice was not merely for reporting or interviewing, it was an instrument for bearing witness, for validation, and for narrative shifting. She used it to uplift others by handing the microphone to the unheard, giving voice to survivors, to teachers, to everyday people doing extraordinary things. But more than that, she used her voice to frame their stories within a context of strength and possibility. This was about telling real stories with unflinching honesty and profound empathy. The power came from the synthesis. She would listen to a harrowing tale of trauma and then, with her response, reframe it from a story of victimhood into a story of survival and resilience. Her voice provided the punctuation that turned a period of despair into a semicolon, signaling that the story was continuing. This consistent practice created a cultural ripple effect. She introduced and championed concepts like The Secret, sparking global conversations about intention. Her book club selections weren't just reading recommendations, they were declarations that a particular story held a truth worth national examination. Her speeches, like the iconic 2018 Golden Globes address, transcended the event and became rallying cries. The power lies in speaking truth that is both personal and universal, truth that resonates in the gut of the listener because it feels recognized, not just heard. When you speak with this level of integrated truth, where your words align perfectly with your lived experience and your empathetic insight, the world has no choice but to listen. You are no longer selling or performing, you are testifying. And testimony has the power to move people, to change minds, and to inspire action. Oprah turned her platform into a megaphone for wisdom, and in doing so, demonstrated that the ultimate use of personal power is to amplify the truth in all its complex, challenging, and glorious forms. 8. Becoming a symbol of possibility. Oprah Winfrey's ultimate impact transcends her individual achievements, the Emmys, the Oscars, the billions. Her most profound creation is herself as a living, breathing symbol of human potential. She embodies the what if. For millions, particularly women, particularly people of color, particularly those from marginalized or impoverished backgrounds, her life is not just an inspiration, it is empirical evidence. It is proof of concept that the starting line does not determine the finish. This symbolic power is active, not passive. It dismantles the internalized limitations in the minds of those who see her. When you witness someone who wore potato sacks ascend to interviewing presidents, owning networks, and shaping global dialogue, it forces a recalibration of your own mental boundaries. Her story argues relentlessly against the tyranny of "that's not for people like us." She normalized the idea of a Black woman as a billionaire philanthropist, as a cultural thought leader, as a unifying figure of moral authority. This is not about aspiration to her specific career, it's about the liberation of imagination. She gave permission to dream on a scale previously unconsidered. Her journey maps a path from object to subject, from being defined by circumstances to defining them. Every time she succeeded in a realm where there was no precedent for her, she expanded the realm of the possible for everyone coming after. She is not a solitary monument at the peak. She is a guide who has charted a route and left markers, showing that the climb, while arduous, is navigable. This is why her name is shorthand for transformative success. She represents the audacious hope that no matter where you were born, no matter what has happened to you, your story is not over. It is still being written, and you hold the pen. Her legacy is not just what she built, but the millions of other buildings her example gave people the courage to break ground on. She is the definitive answer to the question, is it possible? Her life is a sustained, powerful, and unequivocal yes. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Your support keeps us going.